There are things and people sometimes that come our way and we lose them, not because there's been some conflict between us, not because uh, they were selfish or they didn't brought enough to the table. They didn't offer it enough to us. Not because of that. Sometimes we push away the good that comes our way. And in this video, I want to talk about this. And because oftentimes we don't even recognize it when uh, we encounter some things that we think are too good to be true. Um, and because we think they are too good to be true, we don't actually believe it to be real. We don't believe them to be true. Um, because when you lived for a long time in in self-predicated relationships, uh, in trade-based relationships, in manipulative relationships, or not even maybe not even you've been mistreated in those kind of relationships, but you encounter them along the way as you go, and maybe all the way through your life you do encounter them. And uh when you live in this environment for a while, when you live for a while um in in an environment where anything genuine, anything honest is considered uh, as a weakness, because it is exact moment when the man is vulnerable, and so this is a weakness that can be used against him or her. It is like to be in a classroom, uh, and with kids, maybe counting that you're also one of them, uh, trying to be genuine with them, trying to build friendships, but being continuously humiliated because whatever you bring up to them, they use it to elevate their themselves and to bring you down, because the exact way they also used to elevate themselves up is by bringing others down. And if you've been in such an environment for a long time, anything honest and anything genuine, anything loving and caring becomes suspicious. In hard times, peace becomes suspicious. For continuously living in pain, comfort becomes suspicious. And it becomes suspicious because it becomes harder to believe it. And not because it's bad, and not because it's not good enough, but exactly because it's good and exactly because it's so good enough for you to doubt its reality. Um, and there can be a problem for you that your unbelief can cause. And it's even more than unbelief, it's pushing away something that is there for you and that is good. Um, because you are afraid that if it's not real, if it's just a fake, and you will open up to that, you will be honest and vulnerable, it will just break you. It will use your weakness, your vulnerability against you. And so it is more than unbelief, it is also a fear. Because when something come close your way, you either get to know it closer, or uh you push it away, or you push yourself away from that. So it either becomes comfortable for you to be close with it or around it, or you just want to make a distance. You want to distance yourself from that. Um, so let's remember that, well, it is a fear that causes unbelief. It is fear that it is not real and it's fake, and so and that it can break you if you will come too close to it. Um, and so what does it cause you? What happens when you have it in response to something that is so good that you doubt it being true? And oftentimes, as I mentioned, what we do, we push this away. We push it away. We sabotage it. We provoke it. And we do it because we by doing it we challenge it to to see if it's actually what we expect it to be, the threat, or it's something actually genuine and good. And not to be too absurd, we can bring an example in real life. Oftentimes, partners would uh, intentionally, maybe not consciously, but intentionally irritate their partner to see what would be his response and reaction. Um, and I would say maybe even oftentimes women would do that to irritate and provoke in a small things by being kind of maybe slightly aggressive or irritated, rude and mean, unreasonably, but sometimes she would do it, so to see the reaction and response, and to see if he reacts negatively, and if he's able to react on that with returning the aggression back, uh, maybe even in accelerated form, or if he would respond with kindness and gentleness, despite, uh, or mindfulness, maybe, despite being mistreated. Um, because I think deep down, everyone understands that there will be moments when we do things wrong, when we fail, when we mistake, to bring all these great qualities in us, and principles of honesty and vulnerability, and love and care and presence to the table. When we fail to do that, and we understand it so good, and that's why sometimes we want to see the other person, uh, like we try to project it ahead to understand what we can expect. And again, is in such condition, the maybe the partner could say, well, she's going crazy, she's doing unreasonable things, and maybe she does. And I don't want to narrow down all the situations to this. That's I don't mean that that's uh, the explanation for each behavior. No, but we speak here about the exact kind of situation. And in this situation, uh, he maybe would think that it's unreasonable, but it's actually not unreasonable. Even if she doesn't consciously understand the reason, she subconsciously does it to see the reaction. Because and the reason for that is because she knows there will be times she will fail to bring up the best from her, and she is afraid that he would not use it against her and hurt. So she's afraid, and it causes the unbelief, reasonably so. Uh, and so again, attempt to push away, to sabotage, and to provoke something you that can be so good that it's hard to believe that it's true. Um, we sabotage what we don't believe to be real. We poke it and we want to see how it reacts. So then we could say, aha, told you. This is exactly what I expected it to be. And not only it to match our expectations, but rather to save ourselves. Because, okay, you don't actually want to find out it's being as you expected. You're just afraid that it will be. And if it turn out to be that way, then it will hurt you, but not as in as much as how it would if you would come closer to it, if you would open yourself up to it, if you would be vulnerable with it, right? Was that good that came your way? Um, so just about sometimes it's not about conflicts, and it's not about someone not doing well enough, not being loving enough, not being caring enough, not being uh, generous enough, and etc. sometimes it is exactly because it is so good, and not because it's bad, but because it's exactly good, that it's hard to believe that it's real. But it can seem to be a reasonable action, and there is a reason behind it. So, in this sense, it's surely reasonable. But when this is continuously repeated, what you end up doing is not giving a way for something good to actually approach you closer and come your way. Something genuine, something honest, something real. Because maybe it is real. And yes, there is always a risk, and you should be thoughtful in finding it out. But there is a risk of being too doubtful, shrinking away in a fear from something that is good for far too long that it loses all hope in reaching you. Because as anything human, it also doesn't last forever. The love, the care, the kindness that someone provides, and the presence that is so important, that someone is willing to provide you genuinely and honestly. Um, as everything human, it's not lasting forever. It's not always will be there, and this is what is important to realize, because at some point it will understand your approach and your decision to keep it away. And because it is good, it will respect your decision. Because it is good, it will not demand uh, recognition of its wounds, of its pain. It will not demand you to acknowledge everything you do, because it's good, and what is good is that which selfless and not self-centered, self-seeking, self-oriented. At least in matters of um, relations, that's how we understand that it's good. That's how we say goodwill. And by goodwill, we mean selfless will. And that's how it can be good for us. Because if other person has it and it has nothing to do with me, how will it be good for me? But if he's taking me into consideration, now it becomes good for me. So everything that is good for you and for others should be selfless. But because it is selfless, it it does not sees you as the mean, but it sees you as an end, and it values you as such. Uh, and of course, it can be brought up to human relationships, mostly, uh, perhaps even only. Uh, because if you push someone who loves you away for far too long, and they actually value you as you for who you are, and not for things you can provide for them and you give them, then they will acknowledge your decision and your will. Your will be more important for them than your applause and your recognition. And so, when people who love you continuously pushed away, or the person, the good that came your way continuously pushed away, uh, some point it will recognize your decision and leave, but not demanding, not demanding, not demanding your applause, not demanding your recognition, because it's never been about itself. It's been about you. Um, the other thing is the other reason why it is so easy to be afraid and to push away something truly good that came your way is because it's easy to mistake uh, genuine strengths, a moral strength for weakness. That's why you should be careful. It's easy to mistake moral strength for weakness. You don't know the thoughts and the will of the other person unless he told you. And when the other person doesn't leave you, it can seem to you as a weakness. It can seem to you as a sensitive emotional attachment. For many for many times and for many different situations, it could be this way. Not for all. For sometimes it is not that. For sometimes it is a deliberate will to stay by your side, even recognizing your continuous failings. It could be a deliberate will to stay by your side, to have a belief in you, to see the potential of what you could be. But it's so hard to recognize it this way. When someone actually loves you this way and believes in you this way, it's so hard to see it for what it is. Because it is exactly too good to be true. And so you are suspicious and you don't believe. And when it forgives you and forgives you continuously, you can take it for weakness again. You can use it as the allowance to continue pushing it away in as long as you want, thinking that it won't bring any um, changes or problems for you, consequences, thinking that it will always be there forever. So you can continue pushing it away. You can continue doing whatever you want to. Doesn't matter of how wrong it is. You can stop thinking about what you do and just do it, because it is forgiving, and it is forgiving repeatedly. And so, but for some people it is forgiving for some rare times, rare moments, for this genuine and honest um will, for genuine and honest will. Just about sometimes it is uh it is forgiveness that comes from not a weakness of attachment, and not necessarily attachment is a weakness, because it's not just some kind of attachment, but um it could be instead a decision, decision and courage to continue having faith in you and your actions. Um, and and it is also true to mistake the this continuous attempt for something good, continuous attempt to love and care, continuous attempt to understand, to be present, uh, for foolishness. Because if you think something is too good to be true, you think it to be this way for you. In other words, it is too good to be true. For something that is unworthy of it being true, or for someone. And if you believe yourself to be unworthy of it, you can't, and or it's hard to accept it. And so you could instead try to um, try to challenge it by bringing up all your unworthiness and trying to prove it in a sort of way, uh, that see, that's how bad I am. Uh, are you sure you came my way and you were not mistaken? Are you sure that you love me for who I am, with all my failings, stupid and wrong things. And so you're trying to show all these failings and all these wrong things. Not because it's not good, not because someone didn't bring enough to the table, didn't offer enough for you, but because it is good and you don't believe yourself to be worthy and you don't believe it to be real. Um, because after all, when you're when you are left to yourself, when you don't have all these distractions around you, when you're really left to yourself, you want someone who can actually see you for who you are, who would accept you in your weaknesses, who would love you despite your uh, despite you falling short from doing what is good. All right. And that's why when you are left for you to yourself, you want the kind of person who would say, I see your wounds and I'm not afraid of them. I see your failings and I'm still staying. I see how badly it can be and I'm ready to go through that with you. That's the kind of person you actually want to be around. Ideally, that is also the kind of person you yourself need to be. Because if you will continue provoking and sabotaging what is real, if you will continue to break it before it would break you, because you don't believe it fully, you might have just broke it yourself. Might have just overdid it until it recognized your choice of not letting it in. You might have pushed someone away in disbelief, with them actually going away from you because they want your will and not the things you can provide for them. Because they want you to will to also be with them. Uh, I think all of us do that. And all of us fear of opening ourselves to something that can hurt us. So we close ourselves instead and we try to present ourselves uh, without our weaknesses. We try to separate ourselves from our weaknesses. Um, but in this same time, everyone knows that we've got those weaknesses, but we're just trying hard to hide them, and so we pretend. Um, we pretend so the other part would not actually see what kind of weaknesses we have and to know more about our weaknesses. So to use precisely uh, something against us, precisely that which we have against us. Um, so it is a challenge. It is that definitely requires courage and a lot of it. But more than that, more than just courage, it requires faith and believe in something good. It requires will and a good will. It requires the will that would want this good so much that to be ready to sacrifice for it, to be ready to risk for it, that doesn't seize anything eh, and doesn't want any other way but this way, and is ready to make sacrifices, to attempt, to risk being hurt, to risk being broken. It requires faith, it requires courage, and it requires a good will. And a good will is formed when we love. This is the strongest good will. Uh, let's take an example of a good parent. And a good parent, though doubting that anything, or though knowing that everything could go wrong at any point, having a lot of doubts, a lot of weaknesses, still with all he has, is deliberately wills and decides to build that good in as much as he can. Despite the uncertainty, despite the risks, and despite the fear that it actually could be, or could it be, real. Because when we don't recognize good for what it is, when we mistake it for weakness, when we mistreat it as, and if it is a human, as anything human, it doesn't last forever. And there is not a lot of things that are as sad and tragic to lose as something that has been actually real and perhaps the most real, and you just missed it and you just pushed it away yourself.